welcome back as another week and another book to review. And for back-to-back weeks, we're actually going to return to another author. This time we are returning to John Williams, who wrote Stoner that I reviewed last summer and was an excellent novel. And this one is a very different one, whereas that was campus life, university life, whatever you want to call it. This is historical fiction and one of the biggest figures in history, Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. And it's a very different style book because this is not your traditional narrative structure. It is an epistolary novel, which means everything's being told through the differing perspectives of people writing letters and memoirs and things like that. It's a slow start. I will honestly say that. It is a slow start, but as you get deeper and deeper into it, it feels more and more real. And it just keeps pulling you in. Part 1 is largely his rise to power. Part 2 is kind of his reign. A lot of that centering around his relationship with his daughter Julia. And I will go ahead and say that that is the real crux of the book is that part 2 relationship with his daughter. I think that's really where I really got pulled into the book, was as that relationship was both in its height and then in its fall, and the tragedy of that. But the really interesting thing, though, structurally, though, is that you don't hear from Augustus until the third part of the book, which is only about the last 40 to 60 pages, something like that. So it's you don't really get to hear Augustus' voice for very long, but his own reflections contradict some of your opinions, or more importantly, the opinions of some of the other people that have talked about him throughout the book. If you get the edition that's here, the New York Books, the New York Books, or New York, whatever the publishing company is. I don't have the book in front of me. But if you get this particular edition that's on the picture, it is... I don't know if I agree with the introduction's assessment of what that means at the end with the changing in perspective. But it was... which kind of in a way made it even more fun to read, because there is clearly a interpretation I was supposed to have, and I didn't, and I ended up having this conversation in my head with the guy who wrote the introduction, and I kind of came in with a different message and a different point, which is the fun part about reading. You can read the same text and come away with completely different conclusions. But I really like this. It is a slow start, so but I think by the time you really get into it, you just feel like you are in Rome in the time of Augustus, and that was really cool. So I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5. It was a fantastic read. Highly recommend. I've got one other... Well, John Williams has 2 other novels, and so maybe I'll get around to reading them and do them on different periods of book reviews in the future. Who knows? Well, y'all have a good one. We got another book review coming next week, and I'll talk to you later.